All right, hello everybody. Thank you for joining us for another match in the Yale Esports Solo Duo Tournament. Tonight we have Team Daniel Diff versus Team Fashion Rats, and this game will be casted by myself, Ben Thonic, and Jeffrey Kuga Terranori.
Hello. We're just about to start pro draft between the two teams, and it looks like Daniel Diff is starting with their first ban. I wonder what that will look like.
Right, we're jumping right into it. Of course, the Teemo ban coming out to target ban Mango Stalker's signature Teemo. As someone who's been on the receiving end of that top lane powerhouse, I'm no surprise to see that going out here. It's followed by a Kha'Zix and a Skarner ban, two picks that have been shown to be quite strong in the preseason thus far. Skarner, of course, capitalizing on the Sunfire Cape strength currently, and Kha'Zix loving those assassin items, so both of those being taken out of the jungle pool at this point.
For sure. I'm not sure if the Kha'Zix ban was specifically for Galaxy X or just as a general strong champion ban, seeing as Galaxy X normally does not play the jungle role. So I'm not really sure what types of champions they play normally.
Nor am I. We do also see the Katarina ban, another champion that has seen a lot of love from the preseason changes. Her ultimate now applying on-hit effects and a more attack damage focused Katarina being more viable, but that is taken out of the champion pool, so we will be seeing none of that. One more ban from both sides here. So far, no attention being thrown at the bot lane quite yet. Maybe we'll see some bans being put there. Time runs out. It seems to be a no ban. I think I will check to see what exactly that ban ended up being. Malphite. It is
Malphite, yes.
okay. Another tank. So that makes two tanks being banned by Daniel Diff here. And lastly, a Nunu and Willemp ban. Perhaps pinching Galaxy X's champion pool. We see the first pick Jhin. Again, another this champion has been seeing a lot of priority ever since preseason dropped. Eclipse on Jhin just being extremely powerful.
Yeah, Eclipse Jhin lends itself to a lethality build that's reminiscent of the good old days where Jhin tends to take Dark Harvest and just really plays aggressively in the early game to pick up those Dark Harvest attacks and hopefully kills on squishier champions.
And speaking of lethality AD carries, it's matched by a Misfortune on the side of Fashion Rats. Another champion that can do well with those lethality items like Eclipse.
I don't
Perhaps
know if
just
Misfortunes lately though. Do they normally build Eclipse with the item rework?
I've heard that Misfortune is surely no Jhin as far as strength is concerned. I imagine that this was just a pick put up to try to match the similar playstyle of the Jhin.
Right. I wonder if that Lux pick is for mid laner or support. I think that their mid laner, at Amsterdam, does play a lot of Lux. I'm not sure if that's something that they're looking to potentially flex in the bot lane as well.
Right, I think Lux Misfortune could make for a strong poke lane in the bottom lane if they wanted to go that route. Perhaps bully out the Jhin. But I'm sure they aren't too eager to show their hand quite yet. The Mumu being shown here for, I believe that will be Galaxy X. I'm not sure about his jungle pool. Perhaps that's a comfort pick for him. And the Diana also being shown. So we have the makings of a small wombo combo comp here. The Diana ultimate on top of the Curse of the Sad Mummy will set up for some strong team fighting and some bonus true damage going the way of the Diana.
Right. Diana appears to be one of the Daniel Diff's mid laner's most comfortable champions because remember they played it last week as well, and they had a sweet 5-9 Diana ultimate.
I see. So perhaps Amumu is just supporting that if that is seen success in the past. Lastly, we see a Morgana rounding out the final stage of this first round, completing the snag squad, so to speak, of Lux and Morgana. We saw this yesterday in our game last night. Lux and Morgana being seen paired together a lot recently. Sets up for some good siege, certainly. As far as bans are concerned, we see an Urgot going the way of Kawisa. Perhaps Fashion Rats is looking to pinch out that pool a little bit. And that is matched by a Jarvan ban as well. The jungler not being shown yet from Fashion Rats, whereas the Amumu being picked up by Daniel Diff. So they're looking to pinch that pool a little bit. But at this stage, I mean, neither top laner has been picked. I imagine Fashion Rats is waiting to save that counter pick to get as strong of a lane as possible into Kawisa.
Yeah, Fashion Rats, it seems, has banned out another top laner, and so they're really trying to push Will out of their traditional top laners that they play, and hopefully also get the counter pick as well to kind of deny Will from carrying the game as we saw him do last week.
Right. And I'm curious to see what Fashion Rats picks up here because presumably they're picking for Pykel here. And in the past, Pykel has relied heavily on the Vi and the Jarvan for picks. And Daniel Diff recognized that and banned those two out. We see the Trundle uh, to counter the Amumu and steal away those resistances with the Subjugate. What do you make of the Trundle pick here? Do you think it fits well with the comp?
Um, I'm not sure. I think it's picked more as a counter towards Mumu, but Mumu like it can really easily just go electrocute and just go for these like heavy AoE nuke AP builds. And I'm wondering if that's what Daniel will opt to do, given that their enemy team did indeed pick Trundle.
Right. I think the Trundle. It's curious. It's strange whenever a Trundle comes out and not against a Sejuani. So
Right.
I wonder what the plan is going here. Or perhaps it's just the champion pool not being as deep as one would hope. The Soraka coming through to pair with the Jhin. I don't think that's quite a traditional pairing with the Jhin, but of course the silences and the star calls can set up for some good Jhin roots.
I actually suspect that is a Soraka top. We'll see who their last pick is, but I'm not
Oh,
quite sure
okay. With
what
the
that'll
intel.
look like. Oh, never mind, never mind. It was indeed Soraka support with the Volibear top.
Okay, so Kawisa here will be on the Volibear, and that gives Mango Stalker the counter pick in the top lane. Save this last pick to see what they can get to the Volibear. Volibear, to my understanding, is a pretty safe top lane pick and is reasonably strong. Um, I'm not aware of any full counters to Volibear here. And with
I
Teemo
think that
off the
champions
table.
that can dodge auto attacks such as Jackson Shan do well because they block 2 out of 3 of Volibear's basic abilities. The
o-
Callista pick,
Okay,
very
so this
interesting.
should be a Callista top here.
Oh, never mind. In the champion slot, they wanted to pick Ornn apparently.
Okay, all right. So uh, everybody, calm down. It's just an Ornn versus Volibear top lane matchup. We're not getting the hypey Callista build in the top
A
lane.
duel between the god brothers of the Freljord, I guess. But at the same time, yeah, I'm really excited to see how this top lane pans out, seeing as both top laners are of roughly even skill level, and both Mango Stalker and Kaisa have played for our varsity team at various points in the past.
Right, and there are certainly a lot of strong top laners in this tournament, and I think anytime we get a matchup like this where they're roughly equal in skill level, it should have the makings of a really exciting lane. Looking like down the line as far as comps are concerned, it seems that Fashion Rats are trying to set up for just a siege comp. I think would be the best pairing for them. Whereas Daniel Diff is looking to try to set up as many hard combos as they can. Of course, they have a strong bot lane that they could play around and try to get priority there. But I think
Right.
generally those are the strategies we'll be seeing coming out from these two teams.
Mhm. In addition to Fashion Rat Siege capabilities, they're really good at just picking off individuals in areas where they have vision, between the Lux Morgana combo we talked about earlier, but also with that long range ult from Ornn that can engage upon like entire enemy teams from like screen away.
Right. And then there's even slows to set all of that up. You have the Make It Rain, you have the Trundle Pillar. They have a lot of tools. If they get vision, if they get control of a vision in a jungle quadrant or a river before a dragon, they can definitely punish anyone who steps a little bit too far forward.
Mhm.
So they are both teams right now are currently going through the draft for real in the client lobby, and then we'll roll into a 3-minute spectator delay before we jump into this game. In the meantime, we'll just be here talking about draft. Do you have any? Do you favor either side up at this point, Jeff? Or do you say that I don't? It's hard to tell that if either team really won draft, but I think it seems that both sides got picks that they were looking for. I don't think anyone was too. Uh, I don't think either anyone found their champion pool to be too pinched or anything like that.
Hello?
Hello. We might have been encountering some Discord bugs.
Okay, I'm back.
Okay. I was just asking you whether or not you thought one side won draft or not.
Um, it's hard to say. I'm not very familiar with a lot of these players on their teams and their like most comfortable picks. But I personally am a really big fan of that Lux Morgana um, pick duo that we talked about earlier and keep coming back to, especially against the relatively low mobility team of Daniel Diff. that can't really like they don't really have these on-demand dashes to dodge listeners might find themselves being picked out by that combo a lot.
Right. I think especially like take the Soraka for example. I think you have to be pretty scared of all of the tools that Fashion Rats has to single you out before you can, get your wish off, get those heals off that are necessary to secure the team fight wins. Same goes for a Mumu. I think the Mumu also might find themselves in a sort of catch 22 where if they build tank, they'll probably be the target of Pyke'll subjugate every fight, and if they build AP, they're at risk of just getting caught and getting blown up by all the catch tools of Fashion Rats.
For sure. So with that in mind, the teams are about to enter the game, but with the spectator delay, we have a bit more time to just talk about like the individual lane matchups that we might be seeing. So, then like neither of us are top laners, but who do you think has the advantage in that Volibear versus Ornn matchup?
I suspect that Volibear probably has a little more agency early. Ornn, of course, scales really well in terms of utility and in terms of items. The forge upgrades, the ornaments, do fare allow him to fare quite well into the late game. I'm not sure how
Right.
Volibear scales in comparison, but I imagine early mid game with the Volibear ultimate and with the additional damage in the lane, that there might be a little more agency for him there.
Okay.
Uh,
With the Volibear stun on his Q, though, it might be relatively predictable for Ornn to just get out of with his crowd control immunity on his W.
this is true. I think the biggest question for me is in the jungle. I haven't seen. I'm not quite sure if Pykel plays a lot of Trundle, and I don't know at all Galaxy X's jungle capabilities. Um, I think that's probably the biggest X factor in this game right now in terms of unknowns. I
For sure.
think it will be
I think, like traditionally, Amumu has just not been seen in professional play because of how weak he is early game and prone to being invaded. And I wonder if Team Fashion Rats will really capitalize on that vulnerability and take advantage of Amumu in the early game before he hits 6 and before he has the capability to execute ganks.
right. I mean, we could even be talking about a level 1 invade here to try to scope out that Amumu. With access to the Lux binding and the Morgana binding,
Right.
the Amumu might even find it hard to get the first camp off. He's certainly abusable, as you said. Looking at the mid lane, which should be Lux versus Diana, I imagine that matchup is a little hard for the Diana, if we're just talking range difference.
At early levels for sure, but I think the Diana all in at level 6 is definitely something to be afraid of.
Right, right, for sure. And I imagine the Diana will probably be a little more mobile on the map once that level 6 arrives, looking for more roams than the Lux might be.
Even before level 6, though, I think that with a well-executed combo, Diana can get a lot of damage onto Lux really fast, and at the same time dodge some of Lux's key skill shot abilities. And at the same time dodge.
Right. Yeah, I definitely agree. Looking at the bot lane, um, we have what? We have Jhin versus Soraka, and we have Misfortune plus Morgana.
Right. So while Straka, as you said earlier, is perhaps not the most synergistic support with Jin, I think that it's still a good pick into Morgana, given that the like poke damage from Starfall is not something that can easily be black shielded, and at the same time she provides a lot of sustain to Jin against any potential poke from Misfortune.
Right. I think uh, the Soraka is, I think, often a counter to the Morgana, or at least an answer to the Morgana. Though I think in this comp specifically, I think the Soraka just has to be so scared for the bindings into bullet times.
Right.
The Soraka ought to have a target on their back the entire game with the amount of pick available. So it looks like
Right.
spectator delay has finally timed out, so I will go ahead and swap scenes into our in game.
One thing that's interesting here is that Jin has opted for Fleet Footwork, while Misfortune has opted for Dark Harvest. So I wonder if Misfortune will indeed be going for a Eclipse-centric lethality build, as you mentioned earlier.
Right. I've heard from some people that lethality misfortune isn't quite as good as you might suspect. I don't know if there have been new builds or more experimentation done with misfortune. Um, I mean, perhaps I don't remember what her build was prior to this rework, and maybe we'll see something like that. But the Dark Harvest does seem to be a tip off towards that more lethality centric build.
Yeah, before the item rework, Misfortunes tended to still build more crit-centric builds, with something usually like Essence Reaver, Infinity Edge as their 2 core.
I see. I think perhaps if the staying power does indeed end up going towards that lethality build, I think you have to be a little concerned about the sustain damage available um, for Fashion Rats. You have because otherwise you'd have a lot of burst and you'd have a good front line, but not necessarily the DPS behind them to burn down the Volibear, burn down what could be the tank Amumu there.
Right. Especially given that Amumu has Aftershock, it does seem that he'll most likely be building tank, but that does open up the option of red team just stealing all those resists with Subjugate.
Right.
It
All
looks like
right.
red team is indeed opting for an invade.
Yes, it does not seem to be a surprise. We'll have to see at what. Maybe they're going for a late invade here, or perhaps they're just going till the time feels right. We have Galaxy X in the mid lane, trying to scope out any potential shenanigans with that bot side mid brush. And Kawaisa is guarding the top side entrances to the jungle there. I want to draw a little bit of attention to the summoner spell choices from Daniel Diff here. They don't have any access to an Ignite or an Exhaust, opting more for more protection for the Soraka. Perhaps a wise choice with all the pick available, as we had mentioned. But that does mean that they will probably be a little weaker in 2v2s, as Salacian has access to the Ignite there. Oh, I'm not sure if Kawaisa sees Mango Stalker doing a little dance. We have a little bit of a skirmish here.
They trade a single auto each.
Right,
Ultimately not very impactful, but Trundle does appear to be going for that early invade that they mentioned, but ultimately backs off and wastes a lot of time in getting started with their own jungle route.
right. It was a little bit of a trade of information for time, really. Pykel has the information to try to do some counter invades elsewhere on the map now that he knows where the Mumu is starting, but with all the time being set back, I can't imagine there will be much ground gained there. Just one moment. All right, and we'll get the tab list up. Take a look at these items. Take a look at CS. Seems that trades are going about even across the board. Van Amsterdam gaining a little bit of an advantage here as we expected in the early levels, trying to abuse that range difference between the early game Diana and the Lux.
Right. In the jungle, we see Trundle opted for a red buff to red buff padding. Very interesting, but does seem to have worked, seeing as Mumu went for full clear and has not yet reached his red buff yet.
Right, the Amumu might be walking into some bad news here, and indeed he will come see that his buff had been stolen, but of course he has a level advantage, and ooh.
Despite that level advantage, Mumu was just so weak in that early game that he really couldn't do anything.
Right, and Van Amsterdam was there with the early mid priority to help out with that roam. I don't think there was much Galaxy X could have done there, aside from trying to find a sneaky flash, or perhaps just not engaging altogether there. It's unfortunate for the Mumu, but this is precisely why you don't see a Mumu picked very often. Quite abusable. All Pykel had to do here really was to figure out where the Mumu had started and just go to the other side of his jungle and look for a pick, and it's exactly what happened, and it worked out quite well.
That's true. From a more macro perspective, though, I think it would have been less effective. Oh, it looks like in the bot lane we have a quick trade ending with a kill on the Soraka. Those dark bindings are just really not something that a Soraka can get away from, even with that heal barrier combo that they took.
Right. I mean, the barrier didn't even come out. It was strictly a trade of heal for Ignite.
Right.
So the barrier will be available next time, but man, that Soraka burned down quick, and there might be more where that came from. It seems that things are stabilizing a little bit in the jungle. The Mumu still keeping up in farm. The Lux Binding lands onto Diana here. And I also Halcyon X, or K rather, having a hard time in this lane.
In the top lane, we see a trade going down with ending in favor of Volibear. Yeah, I think as we talked about, like Volibear does have the advantage in these early levels, and so I think Poland just has to play it safe in the meantime.
Right. We do see Pykel moving towards that top side. Perhaps looking to gank an overextended Kawisa.
Looks like he's looking for Amumu's jungle camps, but there's nothing to be found there.
Right, so we see the red pings now coming down. Kawisa types in all chat, Pykel don't gank top. It seems that he knows what's about to come. Still though, it looks Pykel is still looking for it, it seems.
Right. Yeah, so up top, it does appear that they are trying to pull off the gank on Volibear, but they don't really find anything.
And Kawisa drops the bruh and the XD Teemo emote and spams emotes. Great BM, I gotta say.
Typical Kawisa gameplay. Yeah.
This is quite standard. I do want to draw attention to the CS lead amounting in the bottom lane. We already saw the 1 kill go over towards the Fashion Rats bot lane, but now this has grown to already a 15 CS lead, which already is another kill if we're talking gold values. So that has to be concerning, especially when you have a pick as powerful as Jhin in the early stages. Kawisa here going in for a trade. Both top laners level 6 here, but neither decide to throw them down. We'll force it back out of Mango Stalker and likely a teleport back into lane. As Kawisa tries to set up a freeze or a slow push. Ooh, the Dark Binding lands on Freya, and they drop the barrier.
They drop the flash, but they do manage to escape with their lives.
Right, and neither bot laner from Fashion Rats wanting to match that flash and will instead just back right off. Both teleports being burned from the top laners, I think. Mango Stalker recognized that Kawisa had a favorable lane position there and wanted to do his best to get this wave under tower and prevent any freeze.
Ornn plays that well and uses his Unstoppable to avoid the Volibear stun. Both junglers are going to head up here with Mumu coming up first.
Right, the Volibear uses the ultimate and Mango Stalker flashes away. Galaxy X is here to try to finish off the dive, but here comes Pykel. Not having any ultimate available. Might have to burn his flash, but I think we'll just walk this one out. I believe that we did see a teleport being used there top lane as well. I presume from Van Amsterdam. I'm guessing what happened is that Halcyon interrupted that teleport and got the kill as the Lux was looking top lane. So good play from them. Perhaps we'll swing the lane as this Diana is whacking away at this tower, picking up a plate and denying farm away from Van Amsterdam.
Although the blue side bot lane does appear to be winning trades, I think that they still need to be a bit more careful just to not get hit by those bindings, because as we've been seeing these last couple of minutes, that just spelled disaster for the Soraka.
Right. Gotta be so careful here if you are the Soraka. The CS lead is still at 15. It doesn't seem to be spiraling out of control quite yet. Though we haven't seen any jungle attention in the bottom lane.
Right.
I imagine that will be coming soon as the dragon becomes more of a priority for these two teams. Pykel here on the Trundle starting to look bottom lane. But it does seem that Salacian might have stepped forward a little too soon. Still, we have a 2v2 in the bot lane. Pykel forces a flash out of Snowlet. The bullet time
flips Jhin, and Pykel picks up the kill with his flash.
Right, they're looking for a second here. We'll back away, and it's a 1-for-1 in the end, trading the Morgana for the Jhin there, and a lot of summoners going down.
Yeah, unfortunately, that Draco didn't have her wish up yet, because with that, I think they might have both been able to get out of that alive.
Right, that definitely would have been the case. So we see plates falling in the bottom lane for this side of Daniel Diff. As Galaxy X is trying his best to try to get some dragon pressure here, but I think he will find himself in really close range to Salacian, who will scare him off. Interesting choice out of Pykel here to prioritize the plates over the dragon.
Hmm.
Perhaps it was just a interest in more gold in the short run. It is, of course, a Cloud Drake, so
Right.
perhaps that added into the value calculations there.
Perhaps they feel that because they have the late game advantage with their composition, that they can get away with not playing as aggressively for these dragons earlier on.
Right. They do have quite strong late game with the Ornn items coming through.
Right. I wonder if Ornn is stronger overall with the advent of mythic items being new upgradable items.
Yeah, I don't know. That very well could be the case. Tanks in general are just strong right now. With
Right.
Sunfire Cape especially, adding a lot of value. We see the Diana ulting in here, with followed by the curtain call from Snowlet. Van Amsterdam
That's
does their best to have some fancy feet, but ultimately will fall. And I think this will spell a Cloud Drake for Daniel Diff. We see pings going down from red side as well. I think Pykel might be looking for this, as he sees the blue team members in the mid lane. Just a little dance here. The Rift Herald already being placed in the mid lane, trying to get that pleading gold. That will already be first tower for Daniel Diff, actually. So that will get a gold lead of 1,000. Meanwhile, the Call of the Forge God drops by Mango Stalker, and that will burst down Kaisa before he can even do anything of his own. A quick solo kill there. Not quite what we expected at this stage of the game.
okay. Now that my Discord has allowed me to rejoin,
Yes.
just want to say that even after the fights we've been having, the two teams appear to be really even gold value. But
Right, with
with
this
the
trade might change that. The wish is dropped, but I don't think it will be enough to allow Snowlet to live.
right, so Lycian was doing a really good job there of landing their CC with the soul shackles onto Jin, and the dark bindings onto Soraka, and ultimately it rewarded them with that kill on Jin, leading to this dragon.
Right, I don't think the dark bindings into bullet times will be going away anytime soon. We'll be seeing things like that all game. You can't get hit by one. Any binding is death at this point. I'm curious to see how many Sunfire Capes we'll see this game. So it looks like we have the makings of 3 for those 3 tanks. Notorious is one of the most strongest items. We see the pillar.
I'm not
Going.
sure if those are building into Sunfire Cape, but
Oh, true. Yes. Oh, the final spark will force the flash out of Halcyon.
right,
Oh, the
Galaxy
flash
Edge
curse.
flashes in
The
to
sad
curse
mummy
with Bad Mummy,
is
but
trying to pick up the last kill and will trade 1-for-1 in exchange for the flash and the Amumu ultimate. Is that worth? I don't know. Did it send a message? Absolutely.
right. But yeah, as we were saying, like Bounty Cylinder does build into all of the tank mythics now, all of which have that immolate passive. So we really don't know how many Sunfire Capes we will be seeing.
Trade of
Both top
flashes.
laners trade their flash.
All right. Mango Stalker barely way to get out of this, but Kawhi, I think it's caught BMing and interrupted by Pykel's pillar. But they don't seem to want to commit to this 1v2 quite yet. Kaisa
Oh
picks up
no.
one on the backside. Van Amsterdam is coming up to try to pick up any scraps, but I don't think they will find anything. So the gold lead is just under 1,000 at this point. There's been a lot of kills and a lot of trades going on across the map, but I don't think it's quite safe to say that either team has a strong advantage on the game state.
Right. In terms of how the gold is distributed, we see that almost all of red team's kills are on that Trundle, but here we see Ornn looking for that trade onto Volibear, but that grasping and dying healing is just really insane.
Well, Kawaisa has no mana here. Is unable to trade back too much there, but still will get the Call of the Forge God cooldown in exchange for probably losing a substantial amount of farm under his tower here as Mango Stalker pushes up and denies that gold.
Right. He does have the teleport, so if he does decide to use that, he's not going to lose too much out of it.
Right. Still, though, a
He
lot of
hovered,
Go ahead.
Do you have her with the Volibear mythic item? I forget what it's called.
Yeah, absolutely. Divine Sunderer. So it is the anti-tank item for the Ornn answer there.
Mm.
As you were saying, though, a lot of gold is on the Trundle right now, which I don't imagine is optimal. As we say that, the Dark Binding into bullet time will land. Freya burns all of the defensive summoners available, but here comes Galaxy X. Now Flashless does have access to the ult, but the beautiful Bandage Toss buffer onto the Dark Binding will secure the Curse of the Mad Mummy and kill Selasian there. The Curtain Call trying to pick up Zhang Power, but it does seem that they will be able to juke their way to safety. That was a great Bandage Toss. It was just what they needed for that gank, especially considering Galaxy X was flashless. I was saying earlier about how much pressure Pykel was exerting in the top jungle there. So it's really good and advantageous for Daniel Diff there as they were able to make that play happen bot lane. More trades going on in the top laner. In the top lane, it's hard to tell who's getting the advantage here. Bandage Toss goes wide on the Pykel, but this is a 2v2 in the enemy jungle and soon will be a 2v3. Snowlet burns the flash and Pykel matches it and the Subjugate will fall and be enough to secure the kill onto Snowlet. Another kill going the way of the Trundle. This is a very rich troll. And I'm sure the Misfortune is a little upset that they don't have access to some of that gold to fund those sweet, sweet lethality items.
Right, especially for lethality Misfortune, not having enough gold in the early game is going to spell disaster as she starts to fall off in the late game.
Right. And here in the top lane, Kawisa is really starting to gain an advantage here, zoning Mango Stalker all the way back to the second tier tower. This blue minion wave is just going to all die and deny all of that gold away from Mango Stalker. Meanwhile, Galaxy X seems to have caught himself out. The Bandage Toss might buy him a little time, but
the Call of the Forge God hits the Volibear, but it looks like Red Team is prioritizing the Diana. They do manage to get her, but one is in less of an optimal position than if they had just collapsed in the Volibear instead.
Right. I think crucially there, though, the kill does not go over to Pykel and instead goes over to the Lux. That is a shutdown onto High Halcyon. I'll say that name right once or twice this stream, I promise. And right, so yeah, Trundle picks up his first assist there.
In terms of these 1v1 trades in the top lane, I feel that Divine Sunder is just such a strong mythic against tanks. That 10% max HP damage on Spellblade procs is just really strong at shredding away any tank, no matter how healthy they are. And the sustain as well is just really insane because it heals you for an enormous amount based on the amount of damage you do as well. Right,
I think the Volibear might end up being a strong sideline pressure going forward into this game. It's hard to tell at this point if the Ornn will be able to match and at what time. Galaxy X looks to check this Rift Herald, but Red Ping's fall has the makings of a 2v2 with 2 more to come from the side of Team Daniel Diff.
The Curtain Call comes down and Trundle Blast comes out, leaving Ornn to fend for himself. He walks through the turret and it's unclear if he'll be able to make it before Soraka and Volibear loop around.
Right, and High Halcyon does pick up the solo kill in the bottom lane, those two being left alone during all of this top lane shenanigans. Mango Stalker trying to limp out of this, but the Volibear ultimate will turn off the tower and secure the 1 kill. Galaxy X now looking for anything that they can find on the remaining members. Flash is traded between Kawisa and Selasian, and he will be able to get into range. But Snowlet walks into melee range of a final spark, will run to his team, and it seems that everyone will escape.
Right. It appears that during that fight, Pykel opted to leave his teammates alone and go for that dragon, which might be good in the long run, but it really made that fight end up in disaster.
Right, and the dragon didn't end up being secured. Another kill being picked up by Daniel Diff, and this should set up for a very easy dragon take. Still, the lead remains at about 1,000 gold. Just trades happening all the time, but the margin has stayed even. The Call of the Forge God tries to pick up Kawisa, and they will be successful in doing so. The shutdown again goes over to Pykel.
A pretty typical play by Kawisa, resulting in him being caught too far into the enemy territory, despite the fact that he was ahead.
Right, and Pykel will move to try to pick up the second Rift Herald with that little bit of added pressure.
Oblivion Orb is that healing reduction item now, right? It doesn't give any magic then? Or is it the other way
Um,
around?
it is strictly a Grievous Wounds item, to my knowledge.
Okay.
I will have
So it
Rogue
appears that that backup is probably primarily for the Soraka then. And
Yes,
perhaps Volibear as well, especially considering he has Divine Sunder as well as Gash of the Undying.
right. Certainly a good pickup, I think. With that Kawaisa int in the jungle there, the game state has now been brought to approximately even. It is 10 kills to 10 kills. Gold is even, 1 dragon apiece. It's about as even as a game can get, really.
Mhm.
And suggests that there's a lot more game left to be played.
There is a lot of volatility for the red team, though, given that that Trundle does have the 1,000 gold bounty. So if they find themselves caught out of position, that could put the blue team in a much better position.
Right. Yeah, especially if that gold goes into the pocket of the Volibear, the Diana, um, they could be a menace in the side lane when it comes time for Baron sieges and whatnot. I think this is the first time we've seen the Diana being matched up against the Ornn here. It seems that iHalcyon is getting the benefit of the lane assignments and will pick up that solo kill. So more
Right.
gold going onto this Diana. That's the 4th kill, and it looks like it will be a top tower as well.
Morgana and Lux looking for the pick onto Soraka, but both the dark bindings as well as the light bindings go wide.
Right. Some pings being placed onto the Baron here. Though it looks like Pykel is looking for this play bottom lane. All of the blue pings going onto the Baron, so this will be a split map. Kawaisa will do his best to try to buy time, maybe look for a teleport, as the rest of his team tries to burn down this Baron as much as possible. Of course, it's a Jhin comp, so they won't do it very quickly, and it does... Yeah, here comes Mango Stalker with the Call of the Forge God to try to put a stop to this. Now it's up to Daniel Diff to try to escape. The Dark Binding lands on the Diana, and that will combo into a Final Spark.
Beautiful final spark hitting 3 members of Team Daniel Diff, but it doesn't seem to be quite enough. Misfortune comes in later with the bullet time, picking up that kill. But
Right, and so far we have what I believe is a 2 for 2. Galaxy X
right,
burns the flash to get away. Meanwhile, all of this, we didn't acknowledge this before, but Pykel dropped the Retailed mid lane to try to capitalize on this time crunch that they put Daniel Diff into. Ooh, the 2-man knockup from Ornn combos into the Jhin root, and that will be 1 kill going over to Zhang Power on Snowlet, and Freyra is doing their best to get out. Mango Stalker taking the tower, but they will fall to the Soraka. Though
a worthy sacrifice given that the gold is going on Straka versus Misfortune.
I don't think Zhang Power is quite aware of where the Soraka is. Freyra is putting on a show with the jukes, but the the make it rain will be enough to secure the kill there. That was quite the fight. I think we went through many cycles of both sides being on the back foot there.
Right. My initial impression was that the Ornn TP was very cheeky into 4 members of the enemy team at Baron, and I wonder if they just collapsed on him earlier, if they would have had the chance to perhaps like CC him so he couldn't get the second proc of Call of the Forge God off, or maybe just kill him outright.
Right, you gotta wonder how much vision the side of Daniel Diff had access to there, because I imagine that if they knew where the rest of the team, the enemy team was, rather, they would have just gone right for that Ornn pick there.
Mm-hmm.
Halcyon goes in here on Van Amsterdam,
Moonfall
burns the
comes out,
flash.
but
Moonfall, yes. And the curtain call, I don't think is finding any targets. Oh, just as I
with the
say
last
that,
shot,
the 4th shot does scope out Van Amsterdam. This might set up for a bandage toss, but to no avail. The final spark does not hit Freyra. And there is a dragon fight here. Now, Mango Stalker is notably farther away than Kawaisa is.
Red team is forced to peel off as they wait for Ornn to get here.
They're trying to burn this down. It does seem that Pykel will try to go for the 50-50 smite, and he will be successful in stealing it away. The bullet time bursts down Galaxy X and Kawaisa here. And this might just be a red team fight. Hyalcion is doing his best on the backside to try to turn this, but now it's just the Daniel Diff bot lane, and they're running for their life as they waddle through this Make It Rain. The Jin Binding does a good job of keeping Mango Stalker away, and it looks like they'll be successful in escaping. Still, though, a pretty disastrous fight, all things considered. The Dragon was lost to the 50-50 there as Pykel secures it with the Smite. And the Make It Rain just kind of wipes out 2 members before the fight even starts. Or the bullet time. Yeah.
I think both of us were a bit peeved at all the kills going to the Trundle early on in the game, but looks like he's really making good use of it and putting a lot of pressure around the map, and also in those team fights taking a lot of damage for Team Fashion Rats.
Right. The Trundle is being quite a force, I do have to agree with you. We haven't checked out the Amumu's items. Let's do that now. Okay, so we have a Sunfire into a Demonic Embrace, which is an ability power item. So an interesting build here. Perhaps the Sunfire is just to help clearing camps and then full AP after that. Does make the Subjugate a little less effective, but
Demonic Embrace is more of an AP bruiser item, though, I feel, because it gives bonus resist for everything you apply that DOT on. They get the pick onto Morgana, but it doesn't really look like they have the manpower to get Trundle down.
Right, Halcyon's Moonfall there sets up great into those 2 kills. The Call of the Forge God looks like it will just punish Kawasa's overextension there. And Pykel looks to try to wreak havoc onto Daniel Diff's bot lane. So tanky, and here comes the Ornn. The 2 tanks doing their best to try to 2v4 this, and here comes Misfortune, the curtain call. Being dropped to try to kill Pykel and secure that bounty, but that will be cancelled as he sees the Misfortune and the Ornn running him down. The Ornn finds...
He's going for the turret dive, but...
Right, finds the knockup, but of course this is a Soraka. They have a lot of tools to live, and Zhang Power will fall after finding themselves rooted under tower with aggro. Back and forth. So now the 1,000 gold lead is on the other side. As Fashion Rats finds themselves in the driver's seat. Oh, Pykel goes in just as a teleport is called by Kawaisa, and here he comes with the home guard speed. Forces the immediate flash, but I don't know if it'll be enough to get away. Mango Stalker finds a good knock-up around the corner there. Still a 2v3 for the time being.
The Subjugate comes out and makes Trundle even tankier than he is already, and I think that's one of the reasons they were able to escape unscathed from the Stormbringer.
Right. The Subjugate is putting in a lot of mileage, as I believe this... Yes, this is a Dead Man's Plate and a Mercs. So the Volibear and the Mumu both being reasonable targets to steal away that, steal away those stats. Finally, we're seeing a Baron being threatened by one team here with Daniel Diff going ahead and starting this up. Pykel
Blue team really does not have that much damage on Baron,
right,
especially with Diana, one of their main sustained damage sources, getting picked out by the Lux, burning Hourglass, but right, they do ultimately secure the Baron.
Yeah, it looked dangerous, but I suppose it was a wise call there, considering they must have known that Pykel had just backed. And right. Halcyon does a good job of absorbing some pressure there with the Hourglass.
Yeah, I wonder how they ended up living, considering that they got hit by the Lux Bindings and Hourglass with the entire enemy team around them.
Right. There were a lot of tools thrown their way. So we are not... Okay, so now Daniel Diff does have the Baron buff, and will likely convert this into a Dragon, which is spawning quite shortly. So we might just have another team fight immediately. Looks like they're going to try to get some mid pressure first. A lot of recalls being channeled right now by Fashion Rats. So it appears that they will just give these objectives. I gotta say, this is quite a competitive game. It seems that every other minute a team is taking the lead.
Yeah. Sad to say, this might be one of our closest games yet, with they're really just going back and forth with that 1,000 gold difference between the two teams.
Right. Pykel might be caught out here. The Wish comes down to neglect any damage. A beautiful Curse of the Sad Mummy on the backside will set
Yeah,
up the
Paladin just
Volibear
going through
ultimate.
here.
It looks
It's
like
just
both
devastating
backlines are
for the
just getting...
backline.
Yeah. Freya doing their best to try to keep this Volibear healthy, but it won't be enough. So in that trade of backlines, it is Team Fashion Rats that comes out ahead. And this
Yeah,
will...
so Lethality Jin in particular really just doesn't do anything against Ornn and Trundle. And I think that with those two picks in draft, I think it would have been better to opt for a crit armor pen build because Jin really cannot touch those two right now.
Right. I do gotta... I gotta shout out Pykel a little bit here. Pykel, ever since Worlds, has been flaming the priority being placed on Jin. Um, especially does not like it when it is not paired with another reliable source of attack damage DPS, like a Graves or a Kindred jungle. I imagine that philosophy played in part to the Trundle pick, trying to abuse the Jin's inability to damage tanks and take them down.
With that last dragon, blue team is now at soul point, which is pretty worrying for Team Daniel Diff, especially given that even with that Iron buff during that last fight, they did manage to ultimately lose that fight.
Yeah, I think if the third Earth Drake goes over two Fashion Rats, you gotta wonder what the path is for Daniel Diff in winning team fights.
Mm-hmm.
That Mountain Soul on an Ornn and a Trundle when your AD carry is a Lethality Jin, that seems pretty doomed. So that has to be a huge concern, and will likely mean that there will be a large team fight in just under 5 minutes when that thing spawns.
Hello?
Hi,
Hey,
thank you Discord
thank
or
you.
Yale Internet,
Here.
one of the two. Yeah.
Yeah, so Pykel's still playing a perfect game here with no deaths yet. He's held on to that 1,000 gold bounty for quite some time now.
And now has a Guardian Angel, so not only will Jin have to kill him once, he will have to kill him twice if he wants that 1,000 gold.
Right. Honestly, I feel like the bulk of the damage onto Trundle will probably have to be from Amumu at that point, with the percent max HP damage coming from his Tears, and the Azakana's Embrace also being a healthy source of sustained damage against their tanks.
Right. Oh my gosh, both both players here going super fast. Pykel trying to pick up Kaisa, I believe, to drop the Subjugate, as well as some other speed boosts. Everyone, they're just running down this lane very fast. I think the biggest change of this preseason, at least from an eye test, is the amount of movement speed available to champions at every stage of the game. To tell you the truth, I don't know why both of those players were very fast, but man, were they fast. As we mentioned earlier, it seems that Fashion Rats is trying to make use of their pick potential and to just shark out any potential picks in this jungle as they place wards and set up for a siege here. Daniel Diff doing a good job of not getting caught by anything quite yet. But the siege, I'm sure, will be quite difficult to manage. Notably, Kawaisa is pressuring the bottom side here. Trying to make use of all of the members top side being shown by Fashion Rats. And will force the Ornn recall there. A lot of red pings being dropped on Kawaisa's head. I don't think that he'll be able to escape this one. The Call of the Forge God is dropped perhaps a little bit too early, but Pykel is going long.
We've both seen already how fast Trundle can be.
Right, I think there's a little bit of indecision here from Pykel. Not sure if it's worth going for this pick when Baron is available for Daniel Diff on the top side of the map. Still, though, he will drop the pillar, drop the subjugate. Kawaisa, I think, will just ult in the direction of the enemy tower and just try to buy as much time as possible, or perhaps go for an execute.
Yeah, at the
Unclear.
same time, the rest of the team appears to be going for Baron. Given that three of the red team members are busy chasing Ball Baron, but Trundle decides that it's more worthwhile to go for that Baron instead. But I don't know if he'll make it on time for that.
Kaisa now wrapping around the Nexus as Mango Stalker teleports in the mid lane, and the Baron is already gone. Kaisa might even make out of this. The tower shots may not be enough to finish him off, and Mango Stalker trying to find anything in the backside of this team fight. The Dark Binding will land onto a Mumu to perhaps prevent any further engages.
Right. What's worrying for the blue team though is that Dragon is now up. Volibear is very chunked, but he does have teleport. But Trundle's already started that Mountain Drake and is about to pick up the Mountain Soul for his team.
Yeah, I think it's gone. That will be, I think, a Mountain Soul on the Ornn and the Trundle, which is just a terrifying sight for Daniel Diff. Oh,
Oh,
maybe
was
not.
Trundle not taking the
Oh, okay,
Dragon?
they pulled it out. Kaisa's here to try to make a miracle happen and will not be able to
Oh
steal it
no.
away. The curtain call comes out, the Black Shield and the Mountain Soul Shield now onto this Pykel, just making him absolutely gigantic. Freyra being caught up by the Trundle Pillar here. Not able to get the recall. The Star Call trying to slow. But here comes a Mumu. It's now a 3v1. Pykel might have cornered himself a little bit here. And the GA will be popped. Remember, this is a 1,000 gold bounty. We'll likely just go into Kaisa here. And that bear just got 1,000 gold richer.
I wonder about the long-term impact of those decisions, given that Baron is temporary while that Mountain Soul is going to be forever. So after that Baron is, after that Baron has elapsed, I wonder if Red Team will have the definitive advantage, given that they have one of probably the best soul for their composition, given how tanky it is.
Right. But at the same time, they're still down gold, right? They're still down 1.5k gold.
Mhm.
And they are still playing into Baron. So if Daniel Diff is able to make the plays in the short term here, we see Galaxy X going in with the bandage toss, sets up for the Moonfall and a Hyalcion. Okay, who's Galaxy X still holding on to the Curse as a Sad Mummy, or rather, it's down for a few more seconds. Kaisa will burn, and Galaxy X does his best to clean up the backline with the Curse of the Sad Mummy. He will fall, but it seems that a lot of miscoordination came through there for Daniel Diff, as the cooldowns I just don't think were there at the right time.
Right. Dang Pao ends up picking up that quadra kill and is certainly a force to be reckoned with. I wonder if Blue Team will even be able to hold on to this push, given that those death timers are looking awfully long.
Yeah, this might just spell the end of the game. They have Mountain Soul. They have, oh, what is it now? 30 seconds until a carry is up, about. So this might be the makings of a game-ending siege, or at the very least, this inhibitor will fall.
Appears that Team Tashmats is continuing with that push.
Yeah, it looks like they're going to make the call to end here. Freyra being caught up by the pillar. We'll drop the Mikhail's Blessing, but that will not be enough. Pykel's still at full health. Teleport being dropped by Van Amsterdam just to make sure that this Nexus fall, and indeed it will, and that will be a win for Fashion Rats.
Well, that was a really exciting game. It was really close for both sides at various points throughout the game. But right after this one, Team Daniel Diff does not have a break, as they'll be going straight into their game with Team Guts.
Right, so thanks for everyone who tuned into this match. We'll be handing it off to a few other casters. I believe it will be Ariel and Yvonne, who will pick up the next game. So thanks everyone for watching. It was fun to cast this one and to see these two teams play.